Is it actually possible to rebuild or to connect more deeply to your marriage after 50? Well, if you're here, you're hoping the answer is yes. And you probably want to know, what does it really take? This is part 2 of our series on marriage after 50. And today I want to talk about the single most important shift you can make if you want your marriage to feel closer again. When we're feeling hurt, frustrated, disappointed, or angry with our partner, most of us express our feelings by making statements. We tell it like it is. You never listen to me. You're always on your phone. You don't spend time with me anymore. Or you make me feel this way. And even if those statements are true, it will shut the door on your communication. Because when someone feels accused or judged, they're going to defend themselves. They're going to shut down and pull away. So making statements, even honest ones, will create more distance instead of creating the connection you're hoping for. So the next question is, if you can't just tell it like it is, how do you express what you're feeling? Well, you're going to need the secret sauce. And I've got the secret sauce that will get you seen and heard. And what is it? It's asking questions. Questions open the door. They're a lifesaver, and they invite your partner in instead of pushing them back. Questions are the bridge back to each other. And I say that with conviction because I've watched it change marriages for 40 years. And here's why questions are so important. Because when you ask a question, instead of making a statement, you're essentially saying, I'm asking you this because I want to understand you. I want to know what's going on for you. I care enough about you to ask. You're coming from a place of curiosity, not accusation, which then doesn't put your partner in a defensive mode. So let me give you an example. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, think about asking a question first. And I don't mean, why haven't you been listening to me? No, we're not talking about that kind of question. Instead, you might ask, have you had a lot on your mind lately? And if he says yes, this opens the door to another question of, what's been on your mind? Can we talk about it? And if he says, no, he hasn't been distracted, and you want to talk to him about not being listened to, you might consider asking, would you be willing to take a few minutes and talk with me about something that's been bothering me? Now, many women I talk to feel a bit more tentative about asking this kind of question directly because the greatest fear they have is the fear of having a confrontation, which is why most couples don't talk to each other about their feelings in the first place. They fear having an argument and that they won't be listened to. But the great thing about asking questions, instead of making statements, is because questions lead more to conversations, not confrontations. So when you ask your partner, would you be willing to take a few minutes and talk with me about something that's been bothering me? Hopefully he says yes, and it's then you say how you feel. I don't really feel listened to lately, and the reason I want you to listen to me is because I miss you. I miss us. I miss the way we used to pay attention to each other. You see, now you have a much better chance of having a conversation. Asking questions in a caring way is what opens the door, lowers the defenses, and creates the space where something softer can finally be said. And kindness goes a long way when asking questions. What's important is that someone has to go first. And probably it has to be you. And here's why. Because in general, most women are more comfortable talking about their feelings because society has given us permission, so to speak, to be emotional, to have our feelings, because we're girls. Girls are known to be emotional, so being deep, emotional, and wanting to talk things through feels more natural to us because we've had more practice. But men are not usually given that same permission. For many men, Showing emotion was seen as weakness. So when you start asking deeper emotional questions, it can feel like a pressure to them, like they're supposed to have the right answer or fix something, because that's what they were taught. So here's what's important to remember. Men have just as many feelings as we do. It may simply take longer for some of them to sort through those feelings because, well, this hasn't been territory they've had much practice in. So if you're the one who starts first, let that be okay, because you're doing it to build something better. But personally, I happen to love asking questions that are playful and meaningful. I probably ask this question of my husband at least twice a year, and for some reason, it usually happens when we're in the car driving a longer distance. Oh, in other words, don't ask this kind of question as you're driving to the grocery store. Ask this kind of question when you've got alone time to be together. So I'll say, "Do you know what I love about you?" He'll usually smile and say, "No," because he wants to hear the list. So I tell him the list of all the things I love about him. And guess what? He really listens. Then I'll say, "Now, you tell me what you love about me." And he does. Sometimes I'll laugh and say, "That's it?" And sometimes he'll come up with a few more. But you know something? This kind of a question is light. It's warm. It's loving. So if you decide to ask this question, it helps to remind you of the goodness and love that's still there between the two of you. And sometimes one small, playful question is all it takes to feel close again in an ordinary day. Another great question: if you could tell me one thing you respect about me, what would it be? And then you reciprocate your respect for him. These are the kinds of questions that spark connection. They create warmth, and when there's warmth between you, it feels safer to go deeper. And once that warmth is there, here are some of the deeper questions you might explore because they have the potential to create openings where you may have slowly drifted apart. Now, only you know what kinds of questions you think your partner would respond to. But you're not looking for perfection. You're looking to be more open, more honest, and more caring. So it's less about asking the right question and more about asking it with a sincere heart. So it's important to start where you feel comfortable and build it from there. And I can tell you in all honesty that in the 40 years of working with couples, I have yet to see a marriage that didn't improve when people learned the art of asking questions and stayed with it. Because when you stop trying to win and start trying to understand, everything shifts. The goal isn't to be right. The goal is to be close. And marriage at this stage of life isn't about going back to who you were. You're not those people anymore. It's moving toward who you want to be now with each other. So what you're building now, if you choose this path, is something new. A marriage that fits who you are today. But I will tell you this. Learning to ask questions is like learning a whole new language. And it's probably going to feel uncomfortable and unfamiliar at first, which is why it takes practice. And it takes courage. But it can also be fun because you're learning a new way of being together. And if you keep showing up for it, if you keep asking questions, listening to the answers, and responding with kindness instead of defensiveness, the intimacy will begin to deepen. You will move from talking about errands and schedules to talking about what's actually going on inside. And that's where real connection lives. And sometimes it takes help. So if couples counseling is something you've considered, it can accelerate this process tremendously. But whether you do or not, the question for you is, are you willing to start asking more questions? Because I want you to know that it's completely okay for you to want more right now. You're not complaining. You're not being selfish. You are a woman who desires more depth and closeness in her marriage. And how beautiful is that? And in the meantime, I'd also love to hear what comes up for you, your excitement, your hesitation, even your fears about starting this process in your comments. And please consider sharing your thoughts or talking about your experience in the comments, because it's a great way to foster support and understanding, especially around the issues of intimacy and living together and marriage. And if there are others who may need a little support, sometimes just knowing they're being listened to and replying to their comments can make a difference in someone's life. If you happen to know someone who may benefit from this conversation, please feel free to share this video with them. Now, I know I've mentioned it before, but if you haven't read our Soul PDF guide, this would be a good time to read it and remind yourself that your soul is always there to guide you on your way and on your journey. It's free, and you can download it by clicking on More right below this video. And when it comes to seeking more guidance in your marriage, try watching the videos and following the steps we have in our relationships playlist, available on our homepage, or by following this link right here, and you can watch them right after this video, right here, right now. So, until then, my friends, always remember, there really is no one worth knowing more than you.